Woo! Good morning. Welcome in on a Taco Tuesday. Woo! Woo, woo, woo. Shannon apparently not with us this morning. She's a little under the weather. Expect she'll be back tomorrow. Guzzling the Pure Leaf tea this morning. Spurs game last night in Phoenix was a little later than usual, so I am sleep deprived. Robert Browning, welcome in, sir. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Coming up later in the show, DILLON EMERY in about an hour, less than an hour. The blue-collar sports dad. Sam Tobias, welcome in. We will talk Longhorns and more with TAYLOR ESTES, the managing editor of Horns 24/7. Ryan Pepe Brown. Good morning, Ryan. What is up? What it is, what it shall be, what it must become. Same as it ever was. Woo! Let's see. I'm going to share this. Or am I? Let's see. Where'd it go? There it is. Dave OEHLER, the Soundscape Stylist, is back. Woo! Here we come. Here we come. Anthony Del Toro, Steve DiRocco, the original Rock. Rock, today is Doug McCoy's birthday. I think you know that. Jason Paniagua, Luisa Alanis, Hector Gomez, Anthony Del Toro. Here we go. Glory, glory, hallelujah, and praise be to the football gods on high who showered football blessings upon us for the last 4 days. It was a football weekend extraordinaire. Welcome in. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Her saltiness not with us this morning. A little under the weather. She'll be back tomorrow. I am quite confident. But Mr. Dave OEHLER, Super Dave OEHLER, is back after being photographed in the San Antonio Current with, I guess, some pretty choice seats at the Sammy Hagar concert. What was that all about, man?
Well, that was a long day because that was on Saturday. So me and you were up here doing the Alpha Louise Radiothon.
Yeah.
And then after that, I went downtown to see Sammy Hagar at the Aztec Theater. And it was a great show, sold out. So a lot of people there and had a great time. I think, I don't think I saw maybe one person under 50 years old.
Wow.
So, Social Security should have been down there signing people up for their benefits or something. But it was a great show that I'd seen. I saw Sammy 3 times with Van Halen. This is my second time seeing him with the Circle. And this may have been the best time I've seen him. He's 74 years old and can still sing like it was 1986.
See, that gives me hope to see like the Rolling Stones. And I know we lost Charlie Watts, but Mick and Keith are still out there. And the Stones were in Austin just a few weeks ago. And you mentioned Sammy Hagar, Saturday night, 74. To see old guys doing it, still doing it, and doing it at a high level. And see, that's what's cool. You saw it. It's like when I saw James Taylor and Jackson Brown in Houston a couple months ago. it wasn't like they're like old dudes. It's like, oh, we feel sorry for them. They were really good once. And I mean, they rocked it. And what you're telling me is Sammy Hagar still has it at age 74.
Still, yeah. He hasn't lost any of his voice at all. Still plays guitar.
That's so cool.
Plays rhythm guitar during a lot of the songs. They played a lot of Van Halen. Some of the old Van Halen stuff that when he was in Van Halen, solo Sammy stuff, did Montrose songs. So he went from 1972 all the way up to the present day.
That is so cool. Wow. And again, as you mentioned on Saturday, here at WOAI in San Antonio, we did the Elf Louise Radiothon. And for those of you outside San Antonio who may not know, the Elf Louise Radiothon raises funds so that kids who might otherwise not have a Christmas can have Christmas toys. It's way cool. Yeah, it's akin to what a lot of police departments do with Blue Santa, but it's just kind of a different evolution of just helping kids at Christmas time. But yeah, you were doing the heavy lifting, and it wasn't. So then I got off. There was a Spurs game that night, and then I saw you post on Facebook, you were going to the Sammy Hagar concert. So did you go right from the radio station right downtown?
Yeah, I got here at about 11 in the morning, and I finished my shift at 4. And so I hung out here and got something to eat and then head downtown. And because the show started at 8, I was home by 10:30 because there was no opening act. So those are concerts I like to go to because, it wasn't late into the night. I was home.
Yeah.
I was walking in my house at 10:30 at night. It was so great.
So not only is Sammy Hagar old and the Rolling Stones are old and James Taylor and Jackson Brown, but we as concert goers now, it's like, yeah, man, if I can get home by 10:30 and, have some hot chocolate and get ready for it. It's like, we used to want to yeah, we want the concert to go late and then we want to go party after the concert. We want to go all night. Yeah, rock and roll.
Yeah, those days are over.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a quick story. There was one guy that it was me and Tim Merriman were down there from WOAI morning show.
Yeah,
and we were hanging out, and we were standing there and down on the floor where we had tickets at, and some guy was kind of walking around like he's lost, and our eyes kind of met. He goes, yeah, and it was a Hispanic guy. He had real long gray hair. And he goes, I'm looking for my friend, and he has long white hair like me, but that's like everybody in here. Everybody in here has white hair.
That's hilarious. That is hilarious. Gosh, it's been a few years now. My wife and I went to see Olivia Newton-John, whom I still love, and she's still got it at the Majestic Theater in San Antonio. And we looked around, we said, there's nobody younger than us in here. It's like everybody is over 50, and some people are in their 70s.
I think I saw one woman that was probably under 40, and everybody else was like 45 or older.
Amazing. Well, that is so cool. And as I mentioned, and you posted on Facebook this morning, the local publication, which is now online, been around for many, many years. Was it the San Antonio Current?
Yeah.
They got the photo of you in the crowd?
Yeah. They wrote a review of the show, and they have probably about 100 pictures up there from the show, and of Sammy in the show and people in the crowd. And I think it's number 3 on their of the 100 pictures that are up there. You see me standing there with Tim Merriman, and I saw him walking around the crowd, but I didn't see him taking pictures of me. I just, I saw for some photographers like, okay, take pictures, whatever you want.
You got to always, and not just the press, but everybody's got a cell phone camera these days.
Yeah.
Expect that you are being photographed wherever you go. He's Dave OEHLER, your Soundscape stylist. Shannon Salty Sweeney, as I mentioned, not with us this morning. She'll be back tomorrow. We got an unbelievable show for you this morning. Yes, we will react to what the New England Patriots did last night in Buffalo. They served notice on the National Football League that we are back. You thought maybe we gone away, that because Tom Brady left us, that we're done. And that was the big storyline last year. Tom Brady leaves the Patriots, goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, goes to the Super Bowl and wins it. And everybody said, and I said as well, Tom Brady won that divorce. Well, Bill Belichick said, you haven't done all the accounting yet to see who won this divorce. Bill Belichick with Mac Jones at quarterback Mac Jones last night in Buffalo, freezing temperatures, crazy swirling winds, a wind chill of about 22, 23 degrees. Mac Jones in the first half throws one pass. Mac Jones threw 3 quarters through one pass. In the entire game, Mac Jones threw 3 passes. I believe he was 2 out of 3 for 19 yards, something like that. Bill Belichick figured out a way in Buffalo to beat the Buffalo Bills, and he did last night. Patriots 14, Buffalo Bills 10. With the win, the New England Patriots further solidify themselves as the number 1 seed in the AFC. They now control their own destiny down the stretch. Now, they will meet the Bills again the day after Christmas, December 26th, but that game's going to be in New England. You would think the toughest one was going to be last night in Buffalo. Now, with that loss, though, Bills fall to 7-5, Patriots 9-4. So Bills a game and a half now behind the Patriots, and Patriots in the number 1 slot. And as I tweeted last night, and I'll ask you this, Dave Oehler, is it too early to start talking about the possibility of a Brady versus Belichick Super Bowl? As much as I love my Dallas Cowboys, as much as I want my Dallas Cowboys in the Super Bowl, and that would be my first choice, can you imagine how delicious the Super Bowl would be if it was Brady versus Belichick? My God.
And right now, I think it's a little too early to say that. But I wouldn't put money on it, but it wouldn't surprise me if it happened.
And the Kansas City Chiefs are down. They won again on Sunday night, but Mahomes not looking like himself in that game. And in fact, last night, Michael Bartlett, I did the Spurs broadcast. And by the way, Spurs lose a close one last night to the Phoenix Suns. So the Spurs go 2-3 on the road trip.
I'll take that.
Yes, Meatloaf says 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I will take that as well. They had won 4 in a row. They had a shot at 5 in a row. They led through much of the night last night, Dave. It was tied 88-88 late in the fourth quarter, but the Phoenix Suns pulled away and won it late. It's a back-to-back for the Spurs. They had to hop on a flight last night, fly to San Antonio, where they will play the New York Knicks tonight at the AT&T Center. So Knicks are beatable. I think that's a chance, especially at home, for the Spurs to get right back on the winning track. We'll find that out tonight. But I mentioned Patrick Mahomes not having his best year. He seems just pressing a little too hard, a little bit out of sync with his receivers much of this season. Same thing for Josh Allen. Josh Allen, so many people had the Buffalo Bills or the Kansas City Chiefs going to the Super Bowl this year out of the AFC. Last night in those swirling winds, Josh Allen, 15 for 30. That's 50%. 145 yards. He had a touchdown pass as well. But, Josh Allen, not all that. But Bill Belichick, 3 passes last night for Mac Jones. Part of the brilliance of the Patriots' 9-4 record, which is currently the best record in the AFC, is that Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator, and Bill Belichick are not having Mac Jones ever risk turning the ball over. They are keeping the playbook very, very basic for Mac Jones. And in a game last night on the road, rookie quarterback, swirling winds, hostile environment, Buffalo, Bills favored, dude only throws 1 pass in the first 3 quarters. Mac Jones last night, 2 out of 3. Meatloaf, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. 2 out of 3 for 19 yards. Mac Jones. But they won. Mac Jones did what he was supposed to do. He was a game manager. He handed the ball off. And last night's game, Dave, when Bill Belichick's Hall of Fame career is over, and when they do documentaries on Bill Belichick and they do 30 for 30s, and I think they've already done a Football Life on Bill Belichick, but they'll do another one when his career is over. Part of the legend of Bill Belichick is going to be last night. Divisional game in an era where, all right, Tom Brady's left the Patriots, so now the Buffalo Bills can own the AFC East. They did last year. They won the division last year. They were favored to win the division this year. They still could with some games left in the season, but Bill Belichick on a freezing, swirly, windy night in Buffalo figured out a way, and he's known as a defensive genius. That's his calling card, defense. He found out a way to befuddle the Buffalo Bills, hold them to 10 points, only throw the ball 3 times with a rookie quarterback, Mac Jones, run the ball a lot all night long. The Patriots ran the ball 46 times for 222 yards. That's an average of 4.8 yards per carry. Dave, what you saw last night in Buffalo, it is the stuff of legend. You will see this covered in the biography and documentaries on Bill Belichick from now on until the end of time.
Yeah, but if to get to the Super Bowl, you're gonna have to throw it more than 3 times a game.
Oh yeah, yes.
Because eventually they're gonna catch on, and then you're gonna meet a team that's gonna be able to stop the run. But being in sports talk, just imagine how easy our jobs would be if it was Tampa Bay and Green Bay, or Tampa Bay and the Patriots.
Oh my God,
in the Super Bowl.
And I mean, at the moment,
and it's possible.
Yes,
it's not out of the question.
At the moment in the AFC, the road to the Super Bowl would go through New England. They currently are atop the AFC. And let me take a quick look at the NFC here. I know last time I looked, obviously the Arizona Cardinals, but Arizona's got some tough games coming up. It's not a gimme for Arizona. In the NFC, Arizona 10-2, Tampa Bay 9-3, Green Bay 9-3, my beloved Dallas Cowboys 8-4. And before we go to break, Dave Oehler, I know you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I did watch the game on Sunday. It was the Baltimore Ravens, and this is why New England is now atop the AFC. It was Baltimore until Sunday. Baltimore goes into Pittsburgh. We had found out over the weekend Ben Roethlisberger apparently told his teammates, "This is it. This is my last year. I'm going to retire after this season." And your Pittsburgh Steelers stay alive. They were 5-1 going into that game. If their playoff hopes were going to stay alive, they had to win. They beat the Baltimore Ravens in Pittsburgh on Sunday. Your thoughts on that win? Your thoughts on what we are now hearing will be the final season for Ben Roethlisberger?
It's time for Ben to retire. I hope he retires at the end of the season and doesn't try to go to another team, because I don't think he has it anymore. And as far as I don't think the Steelers won that game. I think the Ravens lost it with that when they went for the 2-point conversion, which was a ballsy move on Harbaugh's part. And I admire him for that. And I think he made the right call. He wanted to win the game, and if they lost the game, it's not in the divisional wise, it's not going to hurt him too bad. But I think he went for it and didn't get it, but I thought it was a ballsy move and more guts to him.
I agree, and John Harbaugh did say after he went for that 2-point conversion to win the game at the end and failed that they had injuries at cornerback, did the Ravens, that had they gone to overtime, they felt that the Pittsburgh Steelers would be able probably to exploit the injuries in the secondary of the Ravens. So he made a calculated move that, hey, we have a better chance to win the game right now than we do if it goes to overtime. But Patriots atop the AFC as we speak. Arizona Cardinals atop the NFC, but just a game behind them, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And let the talk and speculation begin of a possibility of a Brady Belichick Super Bowl. Coming up, the high five play of the day. Then just after 7 o'clock, oh my goodness, DILLON EMERY, the blue-collar sports dad who has been seething ever since Lincoln Riley departed OU and went to USC. Well, OU now has their man. Their new head coach, Brent Venables, announced to the media yesterday. We'll talk about that with DILLON just after 7. Just after 8 o'clock, TAYLOR ESTES, managing editor of Horns 24/7. Do we know who the Longhorn quarterback of the future will be? And Did he play for Ohio State, or was he at least on the campus for Ohio State this past season? I think he did get in for a few plays for Ohio State this season. Lots to talk about all morning long. He is your Soundscape stylist, Dave OEHLER. Shannon, Salty, Sweeney out today. She'll be back with us tomorrow. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Woo! Good morning, Beth Settle. Do a little roll call here. Who do I see in here? I see Robert Browning from Japan, Sam Tobias, Tracy Bogert, Ryan Pepe Brown, Luisa Alanis, Steve Duraco, the original Rock. I think I said Jason Paniagua, right? Hector Gomez, Anthony Del Toro, Sam Tobias, Christopher Smith in Kenya, Ralph Balderas. Christopher says, we are sick in Nairobi, Kenya. I lost smell and taste, but only for 6 to 12 hours. And we know what that probably is, Christopher. Be safe, man. Be very, very careful. Let's see. Chris Gonzalez, good morning. I mentioned Beth Settle, Xavier Moreno, Jason Paniagua. Let's see. Xavier was hoping UTSA would have gotten awarded the New Orleans Bowl. I do too, man. Yeah, we're going to talk about Quinn Ewers, Wes, with Taylor at 8:05. I mean, I love UTSA. Obviously, I love Jeff Traylor. I want them to win that game. But, man, the Frisco Bowl, after the season they had, it would have been a better reward for that fan base and those players to go to New Orleans than Frisco. But, you know, they're moving on to the American Athletic Conference. And if you win there, and I think they will, there's going to be better bowl opportunity. I mean, Cincinnati right now in the American Athletic Conference, and they're in the playoff. So that kind of thing is now a possibility for UTSA. All right. I am going to heat up my coffee. Ramon from Ohio. I missed you, man. Ramon Rodriguez Martinez. Ramon, let me put you up on the screen here. Thank you for joining us. Where in Ohio are you, Ramon? My wife is from Cincinnati. Therefore, and she was a bear cat, and she was actually a bear kitten. True story. So I am pulling for the Cincinnati Bearcats against evil Alabama. And I know Alabama's insanely favored. But every so often, David beats Goliath. It happens every so often. Although, you can beat Goliath, but can you beat Satan? Nick Satan. Kind of difficult. I'll be back in 90 seconds. I'm heating my coffee. Thank you, Mike Taylor. Mike Taylor and the Mike Taylor Dancers. Robert Browning likes the Bearcats versus Satan. Thank you, Mike. James Rippey, good morning. Dayton, Ohio, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So, Ramon, I'm going to assume you're in the Air Force. So thank you for your service. Anybody else here who is serving or has served, we certainly thank you. James Rippey joins us. Wes Perkins says, go Cincy, go new Big 12. Yep. A lot of reasons to pull for Cincinnati, although it will probably be ugly. That's okay. And again, every so often, there's a big upset. That's why we watch. Something I'm going to talk about, I'm going to put a link in here. It's a documentary on Nick Saban and Bill Belichick. Retired U.S. Army, now works for the government. All right, Ramon. Thank you for your service in the Army. Go Army, beat Navy. Yeah, I tend to pull for Army in the Army-Navy games, except for I love Roger Staubach. And I've been to like 3 Army-Navy games and got to talk to Roger at one of them. I've told the story as well. You know, Roger, many years ago, was kind enough to invite me and Dawn Hall and my wife and Steve Duraco went to his suite. Anyway, I just added the, I'm going to talk a little bit about this documentary and these 2 coaches here in a moment as part of the High Five Play of the Day. Look at that. Robert in the Army and the Air Force. Not a lot of people with that experience, Robert. And thank you for your service, to have served in 2 branches. Get a chance to compare there. And, you know, this is December 7th. You talk about military sacrifice. This is Pearl Harbor Day. And, you know, we talk about the greatest generation. Not a lot of people still around. You know, we lose more and more every year who were serving either at Pearl Harbor or at the time of Pearl Harbor. But, you know, my mom, who is 98, remembers it well and is. Anyway, here we come.
Back to the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney.
Revolution by the Beatles. Dave OEHLER, your Soundscape Stylist. Dave, I've probably told you this before. Whenever I hear that song, I have a flashback. Back when I did news talk radio at another radio station on Eisenhower Road in San Antonio. I had an afternoon show. That was the opening music. We opened with Revolution by the Beatles, and we closed with The End by the Beatles. The song "The End" by the Beatles.
And I don't know if I know that one.
It goes. It's on Abbey Road, and it's a very short little tune. It goes, "And in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make."
Oh, okay, yeah, I didn't know that song.
It's at the end of that whole Polythene Pam. She came into the bathroom window. That
Right.
whole medley that's on Abbey Road. Now I did see, Dave Oehler. Have you seen the Beatles Get Back documentary on Disney Plus?
No, I don't have Disney Plus, but so I'm waiting on it.
I might know a guy who might have a. Not that I would give you a passcode illegally or anything.
I know you've been posting about it.
Okay,
I've seen your post about it. So tell me how it is, real quick.
Well, first of all, real quick is not a phrase you would use. They say it's 6 hours, but it's 3 parts, and they say it's 6 hours, 2 hours. No, it's like each part is like 2 hours and 52 minutes.
Oh, wow.
When you add it all up, it's closer to 8 hours.
See, I thought it was like 3.
No, it's closer to 8 hours. For me, I am a Beatles freak, so I was in heaven. I mean, I'm like, give me more. And Peter Jackson, the director, even says there's more. He's going to release even more someday, because he's for a Beatles freak. You want everything. Now, Charlie Parker, who works down the hall at 1200 WOAI, who you work with, Charlie said it got, for him, tedious and monotonous, because they're in the studio and you hear them, going over a song like "Get Back" or "Let It Be" again and again and again and again. And for me, it's like I'm hanging out in the studio with the Beatles 53 years ago. So I'm loving every second of it. And Peter Jackson not only restored the audio, so the audio is beautiful and crisp and crystal clear. He restored the 16 millimeter footage. It looks like HD footage that was shot yesterday.
Wow.
Here are the Beatles. You're hanging out with the Beatles. The oldest Beatle in the room is 28 years old, and that's John Lennon and Ringo. And it's crazy. So I loved it. My wife had a good idea. What they should have done was released a 2-hour version, and they could have had a double splash. They should have released a 2-hour version, and then a month later said, "Now here's Peter Jackson's director's cut for all you freaks." Because I do, if you're not a Beatles freak like me, nearly 8 hours of it's a little hard, but I freaking loved it.
I heard it was it kind of starts out a little kind of slow,
Yeah,
and but it gets better.
Yes,
towards the end.
The rooftop. So it culminates with the rooftop concert, and it tells you how that happened, and it almost didn't happen, and they were actually going to go to like Libya, and all this other stuff was going to happen, and at one point George Harrison gets angry and leaves the band. So all this stuff happens, but the rooftop concert and the way Peter Jackson took the footage and directed the rooftop concert, it is a joy. It is, to get to that rooftop concert at the end of the documentary, which is, it's about, they spend maybe 45 minutes to an hour at the end on the rooftop concert. It's so cool.
And Let It Be is one of my favorite albums of all time.
Oh my God.
Anybody.
Yeah.
And just there's a rumor going around that I'm getting the Let It Be 50th box set coming for Christmas.
Very
At least
nice.
That's just some of the rumors. And that's not that I'm peeking at anything.
That's so cool.
The rumors that I'll be getting that box set, which I'm really looking forward to hearing.
Well, and what's so cool is, there's like little things on that Let It Be album where they do even have little snippets on the album itself of some studio things.
Yeah.
And like even, at the end of the rooftop concert when John says, "Thank you on behalf of myself, and I hope we pass the audition." That's on the album. And to see that live and to see these little moments live and to know what they were. And the other thing is, we've seen shots of the rooftop concert over the years. To see it from beginning to end, to see the Beatles like climbing the ladder to get onto the roof and climbing the stairs and then doing it. And then you see the cops show up and intervene. And blew my mind.
Well,
So-
that rooftop concert didn't last very long. Wasn't
No.
it like 4 or 5 songs or something before they shut down?
Yeah, it's like 4 or 5 songs. But I think in real time it was 35 minutes.
Okay. That's longer than I thought it was.
It was so cool. So yeah, I do recommend it. If you're a Beatles freak, you're going to heaven. And even if you're not a Beatles freak, just go with it. Get to the rooftop concert. It'll be worth the ride for you. All right. So anyway, there's like 10 minutes on the Beatles we just did, but it's so cool. It's tremendous.
It didn't take us 8.5 hours or whatever, whatever the documentary was.
Yes. Well, may have seemed like it.
And just real quick, did your wife watch it with you?
She did.
Okay. And did she like the 8.5 hours, or was that too long for her?
And again, it was her idea. She said, they should have done she's very supportive of me and very tolerant of the fact that I'm a Beatles freak. So I think she was polite enough not to say,
that's too long.
Pretty damn long.
Yeah.
But she enjoyed it, and she, like me, said that the rooftop concert at the end and the way it was done was spectacular. And and it's 1969, so just even seeing the fashion, like during the rooftop concert, you're seeing all the people in London and what they're wearing and what they're saying and pointing up to the concert, and then even in you see Linda Eastman, Linda McCartney, you see Yoko. Yeah, you see people coming into the studio wearing what they wore in 1969. Just the fashion is amazing. And again, it looks like it's an it's an HD because they restored the 16 millimeter film just using modern technology, which was amazing. All right, enough Beatles for now. It is time for the high five play of the day. We do this every morning at this time. By the way, if you're just tuning in, Shannon Salty Sweeney out today, a little under the weather. She'll be back mañana, we do believe and trust. She's a quick rebounder and a former high school basketball player. So we expect her to rebound and be right back in here tomorrow. Hope she's feeling better. High five play of the day, appropriately sponsored by High Five, 2 locations in the Austin area. They got everything you're looking for at a High Five location. Big screen TVs all over the place. Speaking of high def, watch all of your sports in high def on big screen TVs. Great food, great drinks, food specials, drink specials, a gazillion games you can play, from bowling to laser tag to axe throwing and so much more. Get into one or both of the 2 High Five locations in the Austin area. I am giving out high fives after what I witnessed over this football weekend. As I said at the outset, it was a glorious, momentous, sometimes surprising 4-day football weekend from last Thursday night Cowboys game against the Saints to last night, the Patriots beating the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo 14-10. And along the way, 2 buddies who were counted out this season, who I normally don't say nice things about because I'm tired of them, because they always win, because they won't go away. But they are friends, and I'm giving them a high five this morning after this weekend. Bill Belichick and Nick Saban. Nobody, well, I won't say nobody, hardcore Alabama fans, I think, but most analysts thought for sure the Georgia Bulldogs would beat Alabama in the SEC championship game. And Alabama not only wins, but they annihilated Georgia. And Charlie Parker, who I just brought up, who's an Alabama partisan, had told me it had been 92 games since Alabama was an underdog. And the previous time, 93 games ago, was against Georgia in the SEC championship game. And guess what? Alabama won that game as well. I saw the stat when I was watching the SEC championship. Nick Saban has been to 11 SEC championship games. He's won 10 of them. It's big boy football. Everybody's good in the SEC. And when you get to the SEC, I would have thought 11 games. All right, he's 6-5. He's 7-4. Dude is now 10-1 in the SEC championship game. So high five reluctantly, but I gotta give him respect and props to Nick Saban in Alabama. And last night, and Dave and I have been talking about it this morning, Bill Belichick. You think he lost the divorce when Tom Brady left the Patriots? Well, maybe not. Mac Jones, throughout this season, has played efficiently and is just a rookie. and looks like the prototype for the type of quarterback Bill Belichick likes to run that offense. There are already comparisons. It's way early on this, but there are comparisons already of Mac Jones to Tom Brady. We shall see if that all works out. But last night, and this is the stuff of legend, you're going to be hearing about this game for the rest of your life, as Bill Belichick, as an underdog, went into Buffalo on a cold, icy, windy, snowy night and came up with a game plan to defensively wreak havoc on the Buffalo Bills and hold them to 10 points and then run the football. The New England Patriots, as I mentioned, only passed the ball 3 times all night, only passed the ball once in the first 3 quarters. And last night, the New England Patriots ran the ball 46 times for 222 yards and a touchdown. They averaged 4.8 yards per carry. So a high five to the two buddies, Bill Belichick and Nick Saban. And as I mentioned them, Dave Oehler, on HBO, maybe it's about 2 years ago now, there is a documentary called Belichick and Saban, The Art of Coaching. And all it is these two guys who are friends hanging out and talking about football for about 90 minutes. And if you're a football fan, it came out in 2019, so it's 2 years old. It's an hour and 13 minutes. I'm looking right now at the stats on it, so that's 83 minutes. It is outstanding. And as much as Bill Belichick and Nick Saban have driven me crazy over the years because I've gotten sick of all the winning they've done, when you watch this documentary and you see them just informally enjoying one another and talking football, you realize why these guys are so successful, because they have such a passion for football. They eat, live, breathe football. And Dave, I think it's not a coincidence, because these guys are friends, that Mac Jones, who went to Alabama and quarterbacks for both of these coaches, is a New England Patriot now, because they share information. And I'm sure Nick Saban said to Bill Belichick, here's the quarterback you're looking for. His name is Mac Jones. And we may see rookie quarterback Mac Jones lead the Patriots to the Super Bowl. Patriots right now have the best record in the AFC.
And that would be amazing. And those two guys, they have to be on the Mount Rushmore of coaching.
Yeah,
both of them.
Sadly.
And I'm not ready to say Mac Jones is anywhere near Tom Brady yet.
No,
because he's got a long way to go before he gets that good. And if ever, because I don't know if there'll ever be another Tom Brady, at least not in our lifetimes. But he's fitting the system, or they made the system to fit him.
Yeah,
and he's flourishing. So there's got to be something for that.
And apparently Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator, keeping the playbook. He's a rookie. It's the NFL. It ain't easy. You heard Patrick Mahomes 3 years in, and his 4th overall, because Mahomes didn't play as a rookie. Mahomes 3 years in said, I'm just starting to learn how to read defenses. As a rookie quarterback, even with a high IQ, like a Patrick Mahomes, breaking into the NFL isn't easy to do. And I think the Patriots are masterfully kind of easing Mac Jones into it. And I'll have to look it up, but I know a few weeks ago, right now the Patriots are 9-4, so they're 13 games in. So Mac Jones is 9-4 as a starter. A few weeks ago, Colin Cowherd, when we're like 8 games into the season, he was comparing the first 8 games of Brady as a starter to the first 8 games of Mac Jones as a starter, and they had the same record. They had an identical record. Wow. So, I mean, yeah, it's insanely early, and Brady is the GOAT, and there will never be another Tom Brady. But for the moment, the New England Patriots are atop the AFC and in the conversation, and they now control their own destiny to make the road to the Super Bowl in the AFC go through New England. So a high five to Bill Belichick and Nick Saban, reluctantly.
And Chris, just to throw this out there, because we're almost out of time, but I've noticed over the last few years is that the coaches have changed. Instead of having the quarterback become the team, they'll change their system to fit the quarterback.
Yes.
Sean McVay did it with Jared Goff, Andy Reid and Mahomes.
Yep.
And although Mahomes is now getting up to speed and is a lot better now, and now Belichick, instead of, because you'd see him play for 2 or 3 years and they didn't get the system, they'd be gone.
Yes.
And that's a trend, a different trend I'm seeing anyway.
Yeah, it used to be it was my way or the highway in the NFL, and you're so right. And Sean Payton has even tried to do that with Taysom Hill. Not working as well.
Yeah,
it's not always going to work.
Very true.
But you make the great point. It was like if your skill set as a quarterback coming out of college didn't fit in the NFL, you were gone. Whereas now they're identifying amazing quarterback athletes and saying, let's utilize what they've got. Excellent point. And it is a relatively new phenomenon. Coming up,
Dyllon Emery, the blue-collar sports dad, his take on the introduction of Brent Venables as the new Oklahoma Sooners coach. We'll talk a lot more football with him as well. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Chris Duel Show. Fonzie J. Rodriguez, good morning. Fix Dominguez, good morning. Okay, now that's crazy, James Rippey. Did y'all know the Beatles' number ones album is the best-selling album of the 21st century? I did not know that, James, but it doesn't surprise me. I mean, all the hits are on that. If you just think, and maybe even now because streaming services, we don't buy a lot of albums anymore like we used to. We stream and we tend to create our own playlists. So that Beatles album, the orange one with the big number ones, especially in the modern era, it probably makes sense that one would sell so much. Blue collar sports dad. Ooh, I need to get my my blue collar sports dad photo in place here for us. Let me see. Where is it? I have to email it to myself, and then I have to add it. So here it comes. So, okay. I actually Twitter messaged it to myself. I think you'll like our Dyllon Emery photo. Okay. And in fact, I'll go ahead and just tweet that out too. Okay, so now let me upload this. Gordon Weedman, Sergio Lozano, welcome in. Let me add my Dyllon Emery photo, and I'll show it to you here. There it is. There's our Dylan Emery photo from the cover of Sports Illustrated. Let's see here. Woo! The shirtless Dylan Emery. I'll have to ask him if he is shirtless. Now, Gordon, you're saying Adele's 21 is the best-selling album of the 221st century. Gordon, did you time travel to the 221st century? That's pretty amazing that all of those centuries into the future, Adele's album is still going to be that big. Wow. Thanks for that. I was giving accolades to the Patriots, but Luisa Alanis says, but will we find out later the Patriots are cheating again? Just saying. Good point. Gordon, John, I don't do the salty shakedown. That's not my segment. That's Shannon's. So, nope, not going to happen. But thank you. I know it's a legitimate question. Yeah, that's like when I would fill in for Mike Taylor, and he has segments like People I Want to Punch and Doing Things. And, those are his segments. I never felt, if they belong to someone else shouldn't do their segments. So there's that. That's just the way I think. Is Chris Duel the fifth Beatle? No, that would be Billy Preston. Okay, now Gordon saying Gordon works at a record store, used to own a record store. We are stocking the Let It Be box set and the hardcover book that is the companion to the documentary. I bought that hardcover book, Gordon, on Amazon, had it delivered the day the documentary dropped, and I love it. But man, I I love the documentary. Let me pull up some Brent Venables info. Dylan Emery, the blue collar sports dad, going to join us. Yeah, I'm glad. I was I was telling my wife, Gordon, Billy Preston, watching him in the studio and on the rooftop with the Beatles, always smiling, just playing with such joy. And I love that they then signed him to Apple Records, and it was so cool. James Rippey with some more facts here. Beatles 1s and Adele's 21 have both sold over 31 million copies since. Yeah, they're pretty big, man. Anthony, I'll try to remember to do that. I mean, you're giving him a shout out right there. So Dave Oehler currently on the phone. Thank you, sir. If you feel something in this segment, feel free to jump in with Dylan. Still, for Gordon and James, for the Beatles to even be in that conversation, this band broke up over 50 years ago. John Lennon, tomorrow's the anniversary, by the way, of the assassination of John Lennon, December 8th, 1980. For the Beatles to even be in that conversation is mind-blowing. So anyway, here we come. Dylan Emery, blue collar sports dad. You see him there on the screen, shirtless.
This is the Chris Duel Show. Now, Chris Duel.
Glory, glory, hallelujah, and praise be to the football gods on high. Praise Tom Landry. Thank you. Thank you, Jimma. Praise Tom Landry, PTL, the PTL club. Sorry, Jim Baker, but my PTL club is so much better than your PTL club. Jim Baker, you might have had Jessica Hahn, but we've got Football Nation, and we praise Tom Landry in this PTL club. Tom Landry, who was a football coach, in my view, the greatest football coach ever. Tom Landry ascended into football heaven in the year 2000, and now he looks down upon us, and he showers football blessings upon us. And we're talking a lot of football today because we should. It's as God intended. It's the greatest sport on the face of this earth, with all due respect to other sports, including NBA basketball and the San Antonio Spurs, who lost a tight one last night at Phoenix. But that's okay. They won 2 out of 3 on the road, and Meatloaf says 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Spurs had a 4-game win streak snapped, but they play again tonight. They play at home against the New York Knicks and have a great opportunity to get back on the winning track tonight. All right, one of our favorite guys, one of our favorite broadcasters, because he's got a great show, and we've had him on this show a lot, and we should, and we will continue to do so, even though he's an Oklahoma partisan. We're willing to forgive him for that. Nobody's perfect. And he's not even a Cowboys fan. He's a New Orleans Saints fan, and we forgive him for that. His show on Saturdays from 10 a.m. to noon, the Blue Collar Sports Dads show with Terrell Huff is outstanding. He was on this show last week, hopping mad at Lincoln Riley for being a traitor to the Oklahoma Sooners. But I believe he is happy once again now as we have a new coach for the Oklahoma Sooners. And by all accounts, the dude is pretty good. We'll talk about it right now as we welcome in the Blue Collar Sports Dad himself, DILLON EMERY. How are you doing this morning? Yeah, DILLON EMERY. We lost DILLON EMERY. That must have been Lincoln Riley must be jamming our signal, because I know DILLON EMERY is probably going to have some negative things to say about Lincoln Riley. Dave OEHLER, our Soundscape stylist, jumping back on the phone to call DILLON EMERY. We'll get it. Oh, I give that long intro. It's like I ramp up, praise Tom Landry, football weekend, DILLON EMERY, Blue Collar Sports Dad. Here he is, everybody, DILLON EMERY, and then boop, and we lose him. All right, we're going to try again. I won't give the 10-minute intro again because that would just kill the whole segment. DILLON EMERY, how you doing this morning?
I'm good. I didn't hang up on you, I promise.
It wouldn't be the first time that somebody's hung up on me when I've insulted them on the radio. All right, Brent Venables, the new head coach, introduced yesterday. Full name Thomas Brent Venables, born on December 18th, 1970. DILLON, in Salina, Kansas. I will have you know, I was born in Salina, Kansas. My dad was in the Air Force. There was an Air Force base there. So Brent Venables and I have that in common. What will Brent Venables bring to your beloved Oklahoma Sooners?
A defense that will be feared in the Big 12 and in the SEC. I love this pick. I love getting Brent. It's good to have him back home. He should have never left. I don't even know the name Lincoln anymore. I renamed my dog this week as well to Brent. Going and everything. I'm ready. I'm pumped. I'm excited. But hey, Caleb Williams is your next answer now. You got to move on. You got to get past the parades. You got to get back into the recruiting trail, and you got to move forward because you're Oklahoma football. And Chris, did you see the shirts that the Oklahoma football players were wearing yesterday?
I did not. Tell me about them.
All of them wore, even Caleb Williams, "We are Oklahoma." Not about the coach. That's what Bob Stoops emphasized last week. So it was exciting to see. I think the city of Norman is still partying at this point. I think everybody went to the airport on Sunday night. They were tracking the plane coming in. But now it's time to get on the ground, get recruiting, and get Oklahoma football just to stay the same and win championships and get that national title back into Norman.
Now, before we talk a little more about Oklahoma football, and we'll talk about college and NFL football in general with DILLON EMERY, you kind of buried the lead there. Your dog was named Lincoln, and now you have changed your dog's name to Brent. What breed, what kind of a dog is this, and how is your dog handling the name change?
We'll give it's a French bulldog. He's responding well to it. In fact, last week he was a little sick being named Lincoln, so I felt like it was time. And then on Sunday when it happened, we went down to the vet place and we said, "Hey, we need to change his name right now. Give me a certificate." And there we go. We've got ourselves a little Brent. And I can tell you Venables is going to be coming pretty soon too, probably, because he needs a brother.
Very nice. DILLON EMERY, the Blue Collar Sports Dad. DILLON, as you probably saw on Twitter, and I do have the graphic up on the live video feed, we have your Sports Illustrated cover where you are shirtless with a football and with an OU headband. Because it is radio, I must ask you, are you conducting this interview shirtless? Are you shirtless now as you are talking with us?
No, it's 40 degrees outside and I'm 41 and I got dad bod full in effect since COVID. So I don't even think I look that way anymore. Maybe one day I will again. But yeah, I saw that graphic this morning and I nearly fell over. I said, "Oh man, don't you forget about things, Chris?" And you go, Oh yeah, I forgot I did that. So yeah, that's me though. That's if everybody's at home, that's what I look like right now. I'll go with it.
Yeah, Dylan Emery, the shirtless blue-collar sports dad on the cover of Sports Illustrated, following at the time in the footsteps of Mr. Baker Mayfield. Now, Brent Venables, Oklahoma has had a pretty good track record of bringing in coaches who were assistant coaches. My understanding, Bob Stoops originally was an Oklahoma assistant. Lincoln Riley, whose name shall not be spoken in your household again, was an Oklahoma assistant or was an assistant, and it worked out for him. And now Brent Venables, at a time when, a lot, like USC goes after a big name head coach, obviously. LSU goes and grabs Brian Kelly. Kind of interesting that Oklahoma, they go after Venables, who knows the culture and was an assistant coach at Oklahoma, but a guy who, and apparently he says he was offered the Auburn job about a year ago in the SEC and said it wasn't the right time yet. But now at the age of 50, this looks like the perfect opportunity for him and for Oklahoma.
And I like it because when you listen to Brent, he never really wanted to leave. I mean, he left because he knew that he had an opportunity at Clemson, and he did one heck of a job up there. I mean, that defense, look at the defense. It hasn't dropped. And I know Clemson had a down year this year, but, I mean, they still did well. And Brent brings this punch, and he was there. And I can tell you this, Chris, when he left in OU Nation, we were all sad. We didn't want him to leave. That defense was powerful, and he was just this man that was heavily animated on the sideline. He loves the kids. In yesterday's press conference, he even said that. He says, I'm going to work them hard, but at the end of the day, I'm going to love each and every one of them, and they're going to graduate. They're going to be Sooners for life. And when you have a coach like that said, hey, Auburn, it's not time yet, he knew when it was time. He knew that eventually something's going to come up in this world, and with what happened last week in Norman, it was the perfect storm. I think even Dabo couldn't even dab himself out of the way of getting Brent down to Norman.
Yeah, I did. I heard that quote that you referred to. I heard the soundbite, and it was a great line. Brent Venables says, I'm going to work them hard, but I'm going to love them harder, which was brilliant and almost Mike Taylor-esque. Mike Taylor says, love you hard. So that was kind of a cool thing. Now, I got to ask you, Dylan Emery, the blue-collar sports dad with us, the most passionate, fervent OU partisan that I am aware of, and our good friend Andy Everett's an OU fan and alum, but not nearly as volatile as Dylan Emery, as we learned on the show a week ago when he was going after Lincoln Riley. But I mean, all right, you got Brent Venables now. Oklahoma coming to San Antonio for the Valero Alamo Bowl. In a moment, I'll ask you your plans and if you will be out there for the coin toss as Oklahoma takes on Oregon. But I mean, we've seen ever since Lincoln Riley left, we've seen a lot of recruits decommit from Oklahoma. How much damage has Lincoln Riley done by leaving and triggering all of those decommits? And how quickly do you think Brent Venables can return Oklahoma to the top of the Big 12 for now and ultimately get them ready for that move to the SEC?
Well, when you look at it, anytime a head coach moves, Chris, they're going to take some players with them. And Lincoln was a perfect case for that. He's going to take players to, California and let them go play the offense that they have. But Brent's going to bring in people as well. I mean, you bring in a guy that, basically is a defensive-minded guy. He's got to get the offense right, and he's quoted already. He's already put it in the books. We're going to be a high, powerful offense. Recruiting is crazy now. If a player isn't happy and they want more playing time, it's simple for them to jump in the portal and let's go. But these college coaches, and that's why it was key for Oklahoma not to get somebody that hasn't been in the game for a while, not to bring somebody. You need somebody that's in the game. The recruiting is key. Your classes, because if you look at Lincoln, he was there, he was established, he had the offense. He had about, 8 quarterbacks that he recruited at one point, I think, at one point in time. But when you look at it, it is like that's why Brent's got to hit the ground. He's got to keep players that are on the edge. And Caleb Williams, he's the guy. He's your guy. And if you're Brent, you're sitting there in your office or on the plane, and you're saying, we got to keep this kid here. He's a freshman. He did outstanding. You got to keep Oklahoma in the top. And I think you will, just because of the logo on the helmet, and it's Oklahoma football. You know, you go there to win. You go there to win championships. And Chris, have you seen some of the players? They're staying. They decided to stay. And there's been players that have rejected winking at the door. Hey, I'm not going to visit with you anymore. You brought me here to Oklahoma. This is where I want to win. And shout out to the OU fans on social media for doing what they're doing. They're getting all these players up to 10,000 likes. They're getting them noticed. They're getting them recruiting. The fans have stepped up in the recruiting portal. Bob Stoops has stepped up in the recruiting. He doesn't have to do what he's doing. In fact, he wanted to reject a $350,000 check just to come coach him in the Alamo Bowl. He's doing it because it's Oklahoma football. And when it's Oklahoma football, Chris, you want to stay and you want to win championships.
DILLON Emery, the blue-collar sports dad, with us. And you mentioned the fans, DILLON, and you mentioned the Alamo Bowl. You know, originally the Alamo Bowl, when I heard the two teams coming, and we learned that on Sunday afternoon, you know, Oklahoma and Oregon, two teams losing high-profile coaches, Oklahoma losing Lincoln Riley, Oregon losing Mario Cristobal. But now, with this announcement that Brent Venables will be the new coach for Oklahoma, even though Bob Stoops will coach the Sooners in the Valero Alamo Bowl in just a few days here later this month in San Antonio. Do you think this brings extra juice for that Alamo Bowl, even though Venables isn't going to be coaching just yet? Just given that announcement, you personally, as a Sooners fan, and I'm assuming you're going to that game, does it elevate the Alamo Bowl just a little bit, or maybe even a lot for you now that you know who your next coach is?
You know, I spoke with Derek Fox on Sunday on the show. I was trying to get him to tell me that it was Oklahoma in the morning, but he knows how to keep a secret and keep it well, but we were emailing throughout the day. It's a sexy pick for the Alamo Bowl. I mean, everything from Bob Stoops, he's going to be a Hall of Fame coach before he coaches this game. I mean, you have a Hall of Fame coach coaching in San Antonio. You've got two 10-win teams coming to San Antonio. Everything about the Alamo Bowl this year is sexy, and putting Oklahoma there is like the red velvet cake, you know. And then you've got Brent that's going to be, I'm sure we might see him. I'll be on Brent watching San Antonio throughout the process as they come here. But this Alamo Bowl, Chris, is going to be simply amazing. Even if you're not an OU fan, I mean, the attraction from the media, you know, because we all want to see Bob Stoops coaching here. And the media will be all over this city, and the money that the city's going to bring in from OU, because I feel you're going to pack this place. You're going to pack the dome, and it's going to be an incredible Alamo Bowl. And, you know, you kind of feel bad for Oregon a little bit for what happened, you know, because we felt that last week. But OU's established, and they're getting there. Bob Stoops is there to coach, and OU's here to win one thing at the Alamo Bowl, and that's to win the whole thing.
DILLON Emery, the blue-collar sports dad, with us. DILLON, I want to move on to a little bit of overall college football talk with you, and then some thoughts on the NFL. What a weekend it was, in addition to the Brent Venables announcement. I mean, the weekend starts Cowboys-Saints, and I know you're a Saints fan, so you're not thrilled with that outcome. But then you had all of the conference championships. You had UTSA getting the big win in the Conference USA championship game. It culminated last night, the football weekend, with Buffalo and New England. But in college football, Alabama, who so many people counted them out and thought they were going to lose to Georgia. If we hadn't learned our lesson yet, never count or bet against Nick Saban and Alabama. Never count them out, never bet against them. Your thoughts on what Alabama was able to do to Georgia in that SEC championship game?
I mean, honestly, I hate to say it this way, but I love to see it. I love to see that Georgia was kind of put in their place in that championship game, because let's be clear here, Chris. When Alabama lost to A&M, we said their season was over, didn't we? I think well, they're exposed. It's it. That's it. Nick Saban comes across a couple weeks ago and says, "You guys are counting me out. All right, you know, you fired up Nick Saban. Good job, everybody." You know, but Alabama comes in and says it's championship time. They have the winning mentality. They have a quarterback that's going to be a Heisman. They have everything it takes, and it's calm, cool, and collective. They're going into this playoff as a favorite. You know, and last week they were underdogs. How do you go from being an underdog to being the favorite all of a sudden and you've got 3 other teams that are like, hey, what about us? You know, in this college football playoff, I love it. I love the fact that Cincinnati did it. I think we learned a lot from UC when they went undefeated, and we kept them out of the playoff. This year, no, Cincinnati, you won, you're undefeated. Let's see what you can do. Let's see if you can play. And that keeps me interested. I'm going to cheer for Cincinnati. I want them to win the whole thing, but Alabama is strong, and Alabama is the heavy favorite. And I like Michigan. I think they're kind of like the stepchild in this playoff. I think that everybody's going to count them out because it's Harbaugh. But we'll see what happens. I really, honestly, Chris, it's going to be Roll Tide.
Yeah, and I'm pulling for Cincinnati as well. I always pull for underdogs. It's just fun. B, my wife went to Cincinnati, so I'm just. But yeah, I would love for David to beat Goliath. I will be dancing in the streets, but I think Goliath wins this one. But we might get. I don't want to see Georgia, Bama again. We just saw that. If we can get Harbaugh versus Saban in the championship, national championship, that would be a lot of fun.
I would love to see that. I like Michigan, and Michigan and Texas needs to take notes from Michigan. You know, it would be wrong if we didn't talk Texas football here, but Michigan has been patient. They have been very patient with Harbaugh. Look what it did. I mean, they finally beat Ohio State, and guess what that rewarded them? The college football playoff. You know, and that took more than 3 years, Texas fans. That took some time. You have to be patient in the kitchen in order to get it right. And Michigan finally got it right. All the ingredients are there. Michigan is not somebody that you don't really want to play because they can destroy you. They can outlast you on the run game. And Michigan's a fun team. You know, so if Texas fans can know anything, be patient with your squad because that could be you in the next couple years.
All right, final thing I got to just ask you about because I just find this so ironic. 2 of the greatest college coach, Saban, and the greatest pro coach, Bill Belichick, both of these guys were counted out this year. And, you know, Saban we just covered. Belichick, when Brady left, it's like, all right, now you got Cam Newton. Bad year last year. Good luck with Mac Jones. He's a rookie. And last night, Belichick goes into Buffalo, only passes the ball 3 times, wins it 14-10. And oh, by the way, we wake up this morning and the Patriots have the best record in the AFC and control their own destiny for home field throughout the playoffs. Your thoughts on the Patriots, what Bill Belichick did last night and what he's done this season?
Well, you had said it in the segment earlier. You were high-fiving both Belichick and Saban. Well, Belichick took a little bit of Saban and put him into the NFL. You know, he drafted this kid that everybody counted out. He was too big. He's not Tom Brady. He's this guy that's never going to learn. But let's be clear here. Jones knows how to learn a thing or two. He's been at Alabama. I mean, and Belichick's there. You said it was kind of like a divorce. Yeah, it's kind of like a divorce. You know, you had that bad year, but now you're turning around. Now you're leading the AFC in an absolute miserable game yesterday. It reminded me of when Army plays football. They pass the football, you know, and Belichick's like, hey, I'm here. I could come through the AFC and I could win. And how awesome would it be, Chris, to see the Patriots and the Bucs? I know you're a Cowboys fan.
Yeah.
The Patriots and the Bucs in a Super Bowl, that's when you know who's the better person. Was it Belichick or was it Brady?
That would be so delicious, Dillon. You know, all of this debate, it's like, let's settle it in a Super Bowl. Belichick versus Brady. I think my head would explode if that matchup happened. Dillon Emery, the Blue Collar Sports Dad. Dillon, your show Saturday, 10 a.m. to noon. I know it's only Tuesday, and we're still like, you know, Sunday, 10 a.m. to noon. I know we're still like 5 days out from the Blue Collar Sports Dad show, but any idea what you're working on for the next show?
Yeah, you know what? My friend and my good co-host Terrell Huff is actually taking the reins on Sunday as I will be listening to my mother sing downtown at her church Christmas festival. We haven't been able to do that in the last couple of years, so I'll be excited to do that. But I know we're talking football. I know we're talking fantasy. I mean, we've got our fantasy league up and running for the Blue Collar Sports Dad. I'm basically out, Chris. I don't even know what's happening anymore. I don't even pick players, I guess, at that point. But I know we're going to talk about the Spurs as well with that nice little run coming up short last night against Phoenix. Hopefully they can bounce back tonight and see where they're at. But it's just going to be a fun show. And Terrell is basically taking over the Titanic, and he's not going to hit an iceberg. I know he's not.
And what a good son you are, going to support your mom singing in the Christmas program. That's very, very cool of you, man.
Yep, 73 years old, and she sings alto, and she's having a blast with it. So we're looking forward to taking the family down there on Sunday and listening to the music.
Very, very cool. I will look for photos and video on your social media. Dyllon Emery, the Blue Collar Sports Dad. Speaking of social media, go follow him on Twitter at BC Sports Dad. And he's got a great page on Facebook where he does a lot of video interaction with you. Blue Collar Sports Dad on Facebook. Dyllon Emery, outstanding as always. Congratulations as an OU partisan and freak. Brent Venables, I must say, looks like a great hire for OU. Enjoy the rest of your sports week, and we'll talk again real soon.
Sounds good, sir. And always, go Spurs, go, baby.
Go Spurs, go. Absolutely. I'll talk a little Spurs coming up. They lost a close one last night to Phoenix, but again, Phoenix last night and still do have the best record in the NBA, tied with Golden State now. And the Spurs were right there all 4 quarters, tooth and nail. It was tied 88-88 late in that game, and this young Spurs team had a shot at winning 5 in a row and knocking off Golden State and Phoenix consecutively. It nearly happened again last night. Quick break coming up. This day in sports history, sports birthdays, and more. Shannon Salty Sweeney out today. We expect her to be back tomorrow. Hope she's feeling better. Dave OEHLER is your Soundscape stylist. I'm Chris. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Woo! Let's see. I do believe. I believe that's too loud. I do believe I need more coffee, is what I do believe. Thank you very much. All right. James Rippey with some predictions. Alabama over Cincinnati, 48-21. Michigan over Georgia, 31-27. And then Alabama over Michigan, 41-26. So, James, we have that on the screen at the 1 hour and 23 mark into the show. So you have called your shot. You could even prove that now that you got, if you get that right, you could even come back and screenshot that and say, see, I'm a prophet. I told you people. All right. I am going to heat my coffee with a microwave because there's nothing worse than lukewarm coffee. Mike Taylor, kind enough to fill in or sit in. Thank you, Mike. Woo! Woo! Thank you, Mike Taylor. And the Mike Taylor dancers. I got hot coffee. That's a beautiful thing. Let's see here. Yeah, John Williams, I checked that. Thank you. I saw your Pearl Harbor photo. Yes, this is Pearl Harbor Day. 1941. How many years is that now? 80. 80, correct? Yep. Good math, James. Sometimes I don't trust my math skills early in the morning. Here we come.
We're back. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. Join in by dialing 1-800-707-9760.
I'm glad Voice Dude gave out the phone number because I don't think I've given out the phone number this morning. So, yeah, you are invited to join us on the phone line. The phone number, 800-707-9760. If you want to jump in here and talk about sports, talk about anything we are talking about, you are welcome to do so. And also Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, little under the weather today. She should be back tomorrow. Got a good feeling that she'll be back tomorrow. Hope she is feeling better. Dave Oehler is your Soundscape stylist. We now know the 4 finalists for the Heisman Trophy. We will talk about that. We've been talking a lot about last night's Monday Night Football game where Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots served notice on the NFL and the Buffalo Bills. It's like, hey, man, we're the Patriots. We're still pretty darn good. They've got a very, very good defense. They held Buffalo to 10 points last night. It was 14-10. It was a frigid, blustery night, freezing temperatures and a wind chill of about 22 and some snow flurries. And the Patriots, what was amazing was they ran the ball 48 times. They threw it 3 times. They threw 1 pass in the first half. That was the same number through 3 quarters. And the Patriots go on and win that one 14-10. They currently have the best record in the AFC. They are currently in position to control their own destiny for home field throughout the playoffs if they can keep winning. Now, Buffalo does play them again in New England. I believe it's the day after Christmas, December 26th. So the Bills will try again, but for the moment, they're a game and a half behind the New England Patriots. Coming up just after 7, We will talk all things Texas Longhorns with TAYLOR ESTES, the managing editor of Horns 24/7. A big development over the last couple of days as Quinn Ewers, who originally had committed to Texas but went to Ohio State, has entered the transfer portal. And there is talk that Steve Sarkisian has already contacted Quinn Ewers. So might Quinn Ewers be the quarterback of the future for the Texas Longhorns? We shall find out. We'll talk all things Longhorns, all things college football with TAYLOR. We'll also probably dive into some Longhorn hoops as well. So she's coming up, and she is always outstanding just after 8 o'clock. And along the way, your phone calls and lots more on the NFL, on college football, the bowl games, and we will dive more into the San Antonio Spurs. And even though they lose last night to the Phoenix Suns in a tight one, the Spurs still have won 2 out of 3 on the road, and they had a 4-game win streak, and they have a back-to-back, so they play again tonight after they lost last night in Phoenix by a score of 108 to 104. And the Spurs led through a lot of that game. They had a couple of spells where they went scoreless. They've been doing that, and Phoenix has went on some runs. But Bill Schoening, it's interesting. Bill was, and Bill will be on the show as always tomorrow at 8:05. But Bill was broadcasting remotely from the AT&T Center last night, and he was in a different location at the AT&T Center, but he got word the New York Knicks were practicing last night at the AT&T Center. So, they were already in San Antonio while the Spurs were on the road last night in Phoenix. So the Knicks will be well rested. Spurs hopped on a flight, flew back to San Antonio in the wee hours last night, but it will be a home game for the Spurs. The Spurs are playing well, and I think the Spurs certainly with a good opportunity to get right back on the winning track tonight at the AT&T Center. That's a tip-off just after 7:30. So we'll have Spurs radio game night, the pregame show with the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening, at 7 over on 1200 WOAI and across the Spurs radio network. All right, Shannon, as I mentioned, out today, so there won't be a Salty Shakedown. You're going to have to wait another 24 hours for a Salty Shakedown, but we do have sports birthdays, and this day in sports history, December 7th. And whenever we say that date, those of you who know your history and those of you who know your American history know that this is Pearl Harbor Day, 80 years ago today, a day that will live in infamy. Any 18-year-old, and there were some, serving at Pearl Harbor on this day, December 7th, 1941. Those people are 98 years old now. And my mom is 98. Wasn't at Pearl Harbor. My dad served in World War II, but didn't serve in the Pacific. But a lot of that greatest generation, man, they are all like 98, 99, 100 now, those who are still with us.
Have you ever been to Pearl Harbor?
I have not. Have you?
Yes, I was there about 7 years ago.
My goodness.
It's an amazing place to go see. It's just amazing to go see that.
Well, I'll tell you what, since you're playing the music after we do this, I want to ask you a little more about it.
Sure.
If we're ever going to talk about it, this is the day on Pearl Harbor Day to talk about it. So we'll learn a little. It's on the bucket list. My goodness, it's one of those things I want to see. But so we'll talk about Pearl Harbor and being there with Dave Oehler here in a sec. But on this day in sports history, 1937, before Pearl Harbor ever happened, on this day, the Red Sox acquired the contract of 19-year-old Ted Williams. That kind of worked out for the Red Sox and Ted Williams. On this day in 1985, the 51st Heisman Trophy Award went to Auburn running back Bo Jackson. That guy was good. On this day in 1988, the Texas Rangers signed free agent pitcher Nolan Ryan. Signed Nolan Ryan.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Nolan. They said we're going to get Nolan on the show one day, and I'm sure he'll hang up on me or just hit me put me in a headlock and just start pounding on my skull. So 1988, Rangers signed Nolan Ryan to a 1-year contract. That kind of worked out for the Rangers. He was really good for them for a while. On this day in 1996, it was the first ever Big 12 championship game, and that's right, Texas defeated number 3 Nebraska 37-27. Take that, Cornhuskers. And finally, on this day in 2017, former U.S. gymnastics physician and absolute dirtbag monster Larry Nassar was sentenced to 60 years in prison on child pornography charges. Larry Nassar, not a good human being. That's your sports history. How about some sports birthdays? Born on this day in 1947, my one-time favorite baseball player. He kind of lost that title when I met him in person. Johnny Bench, Major League Baseball catcher, Hall of Famer. Johnny Bench, born in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. He's an Oklahoma guy. Happy birthday, Johnny Bench. If we ever meet again, maybe you'll be a little nicer. Born on this day in 1956, Larry Bird, American Basketball Hall of Famer, and a lot of people may forget, a coach with the that's me sneezing. Indiana Pacers, 3-time NBA champion. Nice to sneeze in the middle of sports birthday. Born in West Baden, Indiana. Finally, born on this day in 1973, Terrell Owens, Pro Football Hall of Fame wide receiver. I think the only Hall of Famer to refuse to attend his induction in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. T.O., a 6-time Pro Bowler, NFL receiving touchdown leader with the 49ers. He was born in Alexander City, Alabama. That's your sports birthdays and your sports history, and a few sneezes in the middle of that.
Hey, Christopher forgot Alan Faneca is birthday today.
Alan Faneca, he's in the Hall of Fame, isn't he?
Yeah, just went to the Hall of Fame from my Pittsburgh Steelers.
Woo! You know your Steeler history. Is that just off the top of your head? Did you know that?
No, I saw it on Facebook. They had it on their Facebook page. And but yeah, just went to the Hall of Fame.
That's right. I saw his speech.
Yeah.
I was in Canton for his speech. It was a very good speech. And see, I didn't realize, because I'm not from that part of the country, to go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, we flew into Pittsburgh. It's a little over an hour from driving from Pittsburgh to Canton, Ohio. So as you can imagine, Dave, lots and lots of Pittsburgh Steelers wearing their Pittsburgh Steeler gear in attendance at Canton, Ohio, to watch Alan Faneca get inducted.
Pretty much when any Steeler goes into the Hall of Fame, there's Steelers jerseys all over the audience.
And I, over the years as a fan and as a viewer on TV, I thought, well, Ohio, Pennsylvania, those are two separate states. Being from Texas, going across the state could take you all day if you're going to El Paso.
Yeah, you could drive 8 hours and still be in Texas.
Yeah, and little did I realize how relatively close Pittsburgh is to Canton, Ohio. I mean, it's almost as far away as Cleveland is to Canton, Ohio, which is about an hour north. So, yeah. All right. Happy birthday, Alan Faneca. So you brought this up, and today is Pearl Harbor Day. And most of us are old enough to remember 9/11, obviously. I mean, that's, for our generation, that's our, oh my God, the world has just changed and we've been attacked moment. Where were you on 9/11 for so many of us? But for my parents' generation, it was this day, December 7th, 1941, in Pearl Harbor. And Dave Oehler, you just told us you have been there. I can't imagine what it's like, but I will say this. Completely different experience, obviously. But when I went to the Vietnam War Memorial in Washington, D.C., on the mall, it was something, I had seen for years and years and years and years in pictures and in film. And when I got there and saw the names of those 58,000 plus who served and died in Vietnam, it was so moving and just so sublime.
and just otherworldly. I got to believe you must have had a similar experience just being there, knowing what happened at Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, and I've been to the Vietnam Memorial in DC too, and it was a little different experience than that. And you know how we did it was the Battleship Missouri is right next to the Arizona Memorial.
Okay,
So we went and did that first, and I knew a lot about the about the signing of the the surrender and all that kind of stuff. And then later in that day, you get on a boat and you watch a movie first tells the story of the Arizona, and then you get on a boat and they take you over to the memorial. And the most moving thing that I saw when I was there was when you're standing on the memorial, you still see oil leaking out of the Arizona.
that blows my mind.
Yeah, that blows my mind too. And it's just not it's not something you really have to kind of look for. It's you just see it because there's more coming out of there than you think.
Wow.
And it's 80 years later.
Yes.
It's still leaking oil.
How is that even physically possible?
And the first time I saw it was we were earlier in that day when we were on the Missouri. People were saying, "Hey, what's that stuff floating around there?" And they go, "That's the oil from still coming out of the Arizona." And they're close by each other, but it's a couple hundred feet away from each other.
Mm.
And that was the most moving thing for me anyway.
My goodness. I can't even imagine. Now, are there, and I should know this, and maybe you know this, as those ships went down, I'm assuming so many bodies of those servicemen went down and are still entombed at the bottom there aboard those battleships. Is that correct as far as you know?
Yeah, that's true. On the Arizona and the
goodness.
Utah is, you don't really get to see the Utah because it's in kind of a restricted area. There's still, bodies on that one too. And on the Arizona, they have the wall there with everybody's name on it. And even to this day, if a survivor from the Arizona, after they die, they can have their ashes returned to the ship.
Wow.
And there's a part on the memorial that has those sailors listed on there too.
Oh my goodness.
That had their ashes returned to the ship after they had died.
I never knew that. You're telling me something I did not know, that the ashes of those service members who lived could be returned to the ship. And what an amazing choice for those service members and their families to do that as well. My God. And you think about it, and again, a lot of these service members were so young, 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. And even though there were tensions on December 7th, 1941, it was Hawaii. I mean, you're serving on these ships in Hawaii. I mean, that was of all the places you could serve, it's like, hey man, we're in the United States. It's Hawaii. It's beautiful. I mean, that was a surprise attack. Nobody knew it was coming. My God, what a horrible day in American history.
And on Ford Island, where they have the air base, the hangar is the museum with all the airplanes and stuff in it. And there they still have the windows that still have the bullet holes from December 7th.
Wow.
They've never repaired it.
That is on the bucket list, man. I'm glad you got to go, and I'm glad you got to tell us about it.
No, it was a great experience, and Hawaii is just a great place to visit. Even other than Pearl Harbor, it's a lot of stuff, great stuff to see there.
I've never been to Hawaii, and I've never been to Graceland.
Me neither. I've never been to Graceland.
I'm an Elvis fan, and I mean, I'm embarrassed. Those are two things. Those are two places I should have been by now: Hawaii and Pearl Harbor, and Graceland. Elvis. And then as a Beatles freak, we talked about the Beatles Get Back documentary earlier in the show, Dave. I would love to go to Liverpool and go see where the Cavern Club is, where the Beatles started out. Go see Penny Lane and all the things that are in Beatles songs in Liverpool.
I've been to London, but I didn't make it to Liverpool.
I wonder how far away Liverpool is from. It's got to be relatively close.
Yeah,
it's got to be an hour.
I think hour, maybe a little farther than that.
All right. Coming up, we will talk Texas Longhorn football, probably get into some Texas Longhorn hoops, and we'll talk college football in general because she covers so much of it and pays so much attention to it. TAYLOR ESTES, the managing editor of Horns 24/7, going to join us as we roll forward. We will talk more NFL football. What a big weekend in the NFL, and what a big night last night as the New England Patriots, I don't want to say they shocked the world, but a lot of people thought
the Bills would have their way in Buffalo last night with the Patriots and reestablish their superiority in the AFC East. It did not happen last night. Patriots won 14-10. Lots to talk about in the 9 o'clock hour on the Chris Duel Show. Yeah, James Rippey telling us over 1,100 souls aboard that USS Arizona. My goodness. Yeah, there you go, Gordon. The Abbey Road crosswalk. Absolutely. God, I'd love to go there. And of course, if you go, you'd have to get that obligatory photo. All right. I got to send a quick email. All right, need to check. All right, I need to write that down. Thank you, Lucinda. I am going to the PGA Superstore. We're going to go check that out and shoot a little video today at 10, which is over there near Blanco and 281. Foam Foot 420. We had so much we covered today. It was just a lot of NFL, a lot of college football. Can't believe you weren't here for all the festivities. Shannon's out today. She's a little under the weather. She should be back tomorrow. Thank you, Lucinda. That's why I'm wearing the cap, because I'm going to a golf superstore today because I'm such a prolific golfer. Let me see here. Whoops. Okay, I didn't mean to do that. What the heck happened there? I don't even know. Okay. Dave Oehler is calling TAYLOR ESTES as we speak. Dave, let her know Shannon's not here. That way she just knows. Louisa, I will do that.
She's ready.
Cool, man. Thank you.
Did you see that story about the lineman getting $50,000 to give to charity?
I did. Louisa just mentioned that on the live feed. Yeah, I'm gonna bring that up as well. What do you know about it?
All I know is that I don't know if it's every lineman or just the starter or something. They get $50,000, but I think they have to give to charity though. It's an
Okay.
NIL thing.
All right, we'll see what Taylor knows about that.
I'm assuming it's just the offensive lineman, not the defense.
Yeah, I think so. Well, she should know more about that. We'll find out here. All right. TAYLOR ESTES on the phone. Great question, Louisa. We'll bring it up. Here we go.
This is the Chris Duel Show. Now, Chris Duel.
Welcome into the 8 o'clock hour. So much to cover, and we have been all over it this morning, and we shall continue talking college football, talking NFL football, little NBA, San Antonio Spurs trying to bounce back from last night's narrow loss to the Phoenix Suns. Spurs will be in action tonight at the AT&T Center, taking on the New York Knicks. That will be a 7:30 start, so pregame 7 o'clock on 1200 WOAI and across the Spurs radio network with the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening. Want to dive deeper into everything in the world of the Texas Longhorns. Nobody better to talk Texas Longhorns with than TAYLOR ESTES, the managing editor of Horns 24/7. TAYLOR, how are you doing this morning?
Chris, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well, and unfortunately, Shannon was so excited to talk with you this morning, as am I, especially about Quinn Ewers and whether or not he might have a future at Texas. But Shannon, a little bit under the weather this morning, so it's just me this morning with you. But that is a big story when we learned that Quinn Ewers was going to say adios to Ohio State. And now what do you think the odds are he lands back where he was originally committed at the University of Texas?
This is a fascinating situation to follow right now, Chris. I would never put odds on recruiting just because these things can change literally by the time I'm done finishing the sentence. But, there's no doubt about it that Quinn Ewers is well on Texas' radar. I think the Longhorns right now have a pretty good confidence in where they stand with Quinn Ewers. One thing that he is kind of going through right now is that he's kind of weighing his options between Texas Tech, and TCU's kind of sliding in there a little bit too. But, from what our guys over at 24/7, Mike Roach and Nick Harris, they do a really good job of covering recruiting. Everything that they are hearing is right now, as I say this, Texas feels pretty confident in their chances with Quinn Ewers. But nothing is, set by any means right now with what he's going to do. But there's no doubt about it. I think that the more people you talk to on the Texas side, the more the confidence is growing. But there's no denying that the Texas Tech aspect, and then TCU a little bit in there as well. But I think that right now it's between Texas and Texas Tech, and I would say that Texas probably has a bit of a lead over Texas Tech at this moment. That can change. I mean, the thing with Quinn Ewers is I said they're going to be looking into programs that could provide the most NIL. He went to Ohio State, and before he played in a single game, it was reported that he had already had over $1 million in NIL deals. So this is a high earning potential for Quinn Ewers. And that's where you have to look at what the University of Texas is doing with their NIL programs and how that could benefit them in recruiting, with the NCAA kind of not really regulating a lot of the stuff that is going on with this, kind of, tossing their hands up in the air at the moment. So Texas has a really good opportunity if with the type of donor base that the Longhorns have. They came out with this new offensive line initiative that's going to, starting in August 1st, paying offensive linemen that are in scholarship $50,000 a year to be involved in charitable, organizations and do appearances with NIL. So with Texas, donor base and everything, they are really positioned, I think, in a good spot to be able to kind of sell the earning power with the name, image, and likeness that these players are allowed to make now. And Quinn Ewers is definitely one. I mean, the fact that he's made over $1 million at Ohio State without really playing anything shows that, he could bring a lot of money in, and a place like Texas could be a pretty ideal landing spot for him if that's what's, kind of on his radar.
Man, it is so amazing, Taylor, that you mentioned Quinn Ewers reportedly has made $1 million already through NIL with his time at Ohio State. Most college students, are happy to work at a Domino's Pizza to make some extra money to help pay for their tuition, and just the money that is being made and talked about is absolutely mind blowing. But you do bring up, as we talk with TAYLOR ESTES of Horns 24/7, you bring up another huge headline this week involving the Texas Longhorns, and you just described it a bit. The offensive line, a new construct for offensive linemen at Texas to work, with charitable organizations, and for that, they would each get $50,000 a year. And to me, even though that's directed at the offensive line, to me, that also sends a signal to Quinn Ewers and anybody else that Texas is now becoming very creative and very innovative about how to use what is possible with name, image, and likeness. And just talking about both of these issues right now, Taylor, it would seem to me if you're Quinn Ewers, just from a branding standpoint, you don't get much bigger than the brand that is the Texas Longhorns. Clearly, they're not settled at quarterback after what we just saw this past season. And the fact that Quinn was originally committed to Texas and already has demonstrated an affinity toward Texas. You got to believe that if we're reading tea leaves, it sure seems to me like everything seems to be pointing toward Texas for him.
Yeah, and that's kind of what, that's where you don't really go definitive, I think, when you come with, when it comes to recruiting. But yeah, you have to really look at all of the things that line up. And, with the whole, I believe they're calling it the Pancake Factory program, which is through the Horns with Heart organization that was set up for the offensive linemen. I mean, that's just the beginning. I know that right now it seems kind of interesting that it's just directed towards, one position group, but with the University of Texas not really being allowed to assist, quote unquote, with these NIL, the name, image, and likeness deals for their players. This is an easy way for them to really kind of benefit on them with the University of Texas kind of being hands off with what's going on. But, that's just the beginning, Chris. And it's kind of interesting. I saw some people when this Horns with Heart organization came out, or the announcement yesterday came out, there was a lot of people kind of wondering what the NCAA is doing with this whole thing because there really hasn't been a regulation of it. But right now you would be silly not to try to take advantage of it, especially when, you're trying to build a program like Steve Sarkisian is. I mean, the reality is you look at what the University of Texas has been going through for the last, oh my goodness, back to when Mac Brown was around. The national perspective is that Texas has, these meddling donors, quote unquote, and they don't let coaches really, they throw their money to pay out contracts like pretty easily. Well, at this point, if that is the case with the University of Texas donor base, which it has been in the past, if they're willing to throw their money out to pay out coaches, why not throw your money into an organization like this, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, the Pancake Factory with Horns with Heart organization? I mean, this is a perfect way for, these donors to not only get a tax benefit by, formulating an organization like this, but also can assist with the University of Texas getting some of the best players. And that's been a huge, with the offensive line has been a huge problem for Texas, especially in state. Some of the best offensive linemen in the state of Texas aren't going to the University of Texas, and a lot of them aren't staying in the state of Texas. So this could really help, I think, lure a lot of those guys in. But, that's just the beginning. And when you look at offensive linemen, making $50,000 a year, obviously not a knock on offensive linemen because that's one of the toughest positions, one of the most, key, crucial positions that probably doesn't get any recognition or anywhere near the amount of recognition that they deserve in games. But the fact that they're willing to put $50,000 towards offensive linemen that are on scholarship, I mean, imagine being the starting quarterback at the University of Texas, what your earning power could be there too. And so that's absolutely going to play a crucial role, I think, in the Quinn Ewers situation. But, as you said, if you're reading the tea leaves right now, and if that's important, which it obviously is right now, I mean, it'd be silly for us to sit here if you're Quinn Ewers and not look at the NIL potential if you've already, cashed in $1 million paycheck and you haven't really even started a college football game. If you're looking at every, area that's going to bring in the most money, yes, the University of Texas seems like it would be the ideal spot. And I think that that's going to be something to keep an eye on as the situation unfolds in the, coming days leading up to the early signing period.
Well, and what you just said, Taylor, I absolutely agree with you that this is just the beginning. I mean, we're still relatively new into this whole name, image, and likeness phenomenon in college football and college sports. And it is kind of, you talk about the NCAA not yet or not at all really regulating this. It is kind of on one level, it seems like it's the wild, wild west and anything's possible, but also, as you describe, a university with a big alumni base, and with an alumni base that has money that it wants to contribute to the football program, and certainly Texas, among the top schools in the country with an active alumni base that's so interested in contributing to the football program. I mean, this could really, if this is handled correctly, this could be a game changer for Texas. I think Texas could really establish itself. You think of, and I'm sure, every big time program has alumni and donors who are very, very active and have a lot of money, whether it's Alabama, Ohio State, or whoever. But Texas could really establish itself as a destination for college athletes who are really interested in making money through name, image, and likeness. This could be just another level of elevating Texas to where it wants to be in college football.
Yeah, it absolutely can. And honestly, I mean, this sounds kind of crazy to even say, because just a few years ago, if we were talking about this is totally cheating. You know what I mean? I mean, in the NCAA standards, that's what it would be. But with them really not regulating this, if you would be silly not to take advantage of it, especially if you're a donor base and if you're a school like the University of Texas. Now, I say that when I say that, a school like Texas, they have to be very careful. They can't really be assisting in their student athletes getting these name, image, and likeness deals. That's the only, quote unquote, regulation for the most part that the NCAA has put on the situation right now. But, when you say it's the wild, wild west, you're absolutely right. It is the wild, wild west. I mean, I remember when this started, I kind of joked, the transfer portal has been the wild, wild west. And now I said before this football season, I remember saying on our podcast, like, if that's the wild, wild west, this is the wild, wild west with, aspect of it, with the transfer portal, everything. I mean, but yeah, you're right. This is something that the University of Texas really can take, the donor base can really step up and make a big difference. And it's needed probably. I think there's no denying that there's been questions of if some other programs, are getting some of the best talent in the state of Texas because they're maybe, throwing some money at them prior to that. You always hear those type of rumors in recruiting as to why, a lot of guys don't stay in the state of Texas. But with this not really being regulated by the NCAA, if you're a Texas donor, it makes no sense. It would be like foolish in a little bit of a way to not, write your check to try to support the student athletes. Oh, and then it's going to also benefit the recruiting. That's a no-brainer to me. So while this is not being regulated yet, I think a school like the University of Texas can really position itself as a destination spot, and they can sell it with, the name, image, likeness aspect of it. And then, this Horns with Heart organization is really interesting to me, Chris, because, again, offensive linemen, they're usually the faceless players on the field, and to know that they're getting paid $50,000 just to be on scholarship and to do charitable acts with that, as long as they're eligible to play college football, then that's huge to me. And I think that's going to be something to really pay attention on, especially when it comes to offensive line recruiting in the state.
And it is kind of cool as well. While, as football fans and as Texas Longhorn fans, we want to see really, really talented players, and in this case, offensive linemen, come to Texas. But we shouldn't lose sight of the fact, as you mentioned, Taylor, Horns with Heart, it is ultimately benefiting charities. And I know it's a win-win for the school, for the donors, for the players, but it is kind of nice that in this construct involving name, image, and likeness, that someone has come up with an innovative way to benefit charities as well. So ideally, it can be a win-win for charitable organizations and people who actually need the help as well. I think that's kind of a cool little aspect to this.
Yeah, it really is. And that's where it's very unique, I think. And I could be wrong. I have not really paid too close attention to every, major program, NIL initiatives that their donor bases or whoever it may be are kind of putting together. But this was one of the first charitable organization aspects of it that I've seen so far. Now, I could be wrong. This may not be the first ever or anything like that, but from just, what I have seen, this is a unique one, I think, so far in the NIL era. And, it could benefit Texas. It also could give other programs a blueprint of what to do also, to kind of also help their, recruiting and everything by using something like this. But yeah, there's no denying that this is beneficial for everybody involved. I mean, as you mentioned, obviously it's really beneficial for charities, which is priority number one. And then the donors, with it being a 501c3 nonprofit organization, that assists with them. And then also to help, Texas student athletes and in future Texas student athletes with that they can sell this in recruiting. So yeah, this is a very unique, creative way to capitalize on the name, image, and likeness aspect of college football right now. And, I think Texas is ahead of the charge with that.
Yeah, going to be really interesting to continue to track. And as TAYLOR ESTES just said, it is just the beginning as we're in new territory with name, image, and likeness. And Taylor, you mentioned, just how dynamic college football is now. Name, image, and likeness, the transfer portal, which you mentioned, and the transfer portal that is the coaches in college football. And obviously we've seen so much movement lately with Lincoln Riley, with Brian Kelly. Not too long ago that Texas made the move to go from Tom Herman to Steve Sarkisian. And we find out within the last 48 hours, Taylor, Brent Venables returning to Oklahoma, where he was an assistant coach after his time as a defensive coordinator at Clemson. He's 50 years old. They're very happy with this hire apparently at Oklahoma. What do you think Brent Venables is going to bring to the Oklahoma Sooners?
This is a really interesting hire. I think it is kind of cool to see that he's kind of come full circle going back to coach at Oklahoma with him being there for so long. Under Bob Stoops, I think he was there for, 7 or 8 seasons coaching in Norman. So I think it's a really good hire. I think that, obviously Clemson has really built, become a powerhouse, and he's had a big hand in that, and I think that the thing with Oklahoma, I almost feel like there's a little bit of the fan base, I feel, wants somebody that has Oklahoma ties leading the program, if that makes sense. I think that that's something that the Sooners, they take pride in that. And so having Venables come back to Norman's really big. It's going to be interesting to see, how this plays out, at least, especially in the 2022 signing class with Oklahoma, because as you know, they've lost a number of players to the transfer portal. They've had some decommitments. So he definitely has some work to do there, no doubt about it. But, I think that this is a good fit, I think, for Oklahoma. I was a little, I feel like Brent Venables' name every single offseason comes up as a head coaching candidate, for the last number of years. And so for him to actually get the opportunity to do that finally, and his name just seems to always be out there as a potential candidate, I think that's big for him. But I think right now, especially in 2022 recruiting, I think that Texas can kind of take advantage of a lot of the guys who have maybe looking around, from Oklahoma that may not have a relationship or a prior relationship with Brent Venables. If, Texas could potentially be on the benefiting aspect of this or the benefiting side of this, both in some of the commitments that they had and also, some guys that they were still in the mix with as well that Oklahoma was also recruiting.
She is TAYLOR ESTES, the managing editor of Horns 24/7. Taylor, it was just such a big football weekend, college and pro. And I think one of the big headlines of the weekend, I think maybe we learned our lesson on not to take Alabama lightly. So many people had Georgia winning in that SEC championship game. Alabama shows up and annihilates Georgia 41-24. Your thoughts on what Nick Saban and Alabama were able to do. And I think now in a lot of people's eyes, they look like the favorite in this college football playoff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they just absolutely dominated. I mean, that was something that it was impressive. Like, I saw some stat. I can't remember exactly what it was, but there's only been a number of times when Alabama has been an underdog. And I think since any time that they've been an underdog, I think under Nick Saban, they usually end up winning by at least 17 points or more. And so it was some record along those lines. I thought, I was like, you never count out Nick Saban. I mean, there's a reason why he is, I think the all-time greatest college football coach in the history of the sport, at least one of the two, the top guys there. And he proved it. You don't count out Nick Saban, and I think he seized on that. But yeah, there's no denying that. I think Alabama, a lot of people have been questioning him, saying like, oh, this isn't their year, and he proved them wrong at the right time. Everybody always says that November, people remember November and December, and that's exactly what you got there with Nick Saban and Alabama taking down Georgia. So yeah, I mean, I definitely would not be wanting to face this Alabama team right now if I was one of the 4 college football playoff contenders.
It is absolutely amazing what Saban has been able to do in the modern era at Alabama. TAYLOR ESTES is a great follow on Twitter at TAYLOR ESTES 24/7. She's the managing editor of Horns 24/7. They are on Twitter at Horns 24/7. And there's a tremendous YouTube channel as well. Lots of great video coverage from Taylor and her colleagues, including Chip Brown on YouTube. Go search Horns 247 for all of that coverage. TAYLOR Estes, outstanding as always. Enjoyed it. And next time we'll have Shannon back on board. Thanks so much for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Anytime, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And if you're just tuning in, Shannon Salty Sweeney, a little under the weather today. She, as a former basketball player, she rebounds. We expect that she's going to bounce back and be back tomorrow. We hope she's feeling better. As we roll forward, we'll talk more NFL football, college football, and NBA as the San Antonio Spurs lose a tight one last night in Phoenix. But they had won 4 in a row previously. So with that, they've won 4 of the last 5, and they're back in action on a back-to-back tonight in San Antonio against the New York Knicks. We'll get into the Spurs and the NBA a little bit coming up as well. Dave OEHLER, your Soundscape Stylist. I'm Chris. We're with you till 9. Thanks for hanging out with us on the Chris Duel Show. Yeah, Louisa, that is correct. Whoops. That is correct.
Hey, Chris, on your Facebook, I sent the list of the nominees from every team for the Walter Payton Award.
Oh, cool. I'll check that out.
That's in your Facebook. And you want to do the highlights of this?
I totally forgot. Absolutely. Yeah.
I didn't know if you want to do that.
Oh, I do. I forgot about him. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, we'll start there, and then I might move into I'll take a look at the Walter Payton info you sent me.
The Dak Prescott is the Cowboys nominee.
Cool, thanks. I'll go check that out. Let's see. I got to. Yeah, so Louisa, we talked about that yesterday. In fact, Lincoln Riley was the wide receivers coach when Mike Leach was fired, and that wide receiver, Adam James, all the controversy that happened surrounding him. I'm going to go grab some more ice. I'll be back in a sec.
Thank you, Mike Taylor.
Okay. Pablo Perez, welcome. Foam Foot 420, I absolutely agree. We want to do that. I know you guys had cited a date, I think in January, which probably makes more sense, obviously, because as we go deeper into December, everybody's got holiday things happening. And I know Shannon is taking off a bunch of days later in December. I'm taking off one day on the 22nd. But yeah, we'll try to do that in January, which I think is a good idea. Okay, let's see here. Okay, at the moment, and that is Elvis's birthday, Amber. So, I mean, eating tacos on Elvis's birthday is almost like a sacrament. But yeah, let's see if that's possible. Some factors for me include the Spurs schedule. Was there a West Coast game the night before? Now Gordon is saying Chewy's. I am a big Chewy's fan. I've never been to Torchy's Tacos yet, which is a little embarrassing. So Graceland, Pearl Harbor, Torchy's Tacos. But I love Chewy's. And Gordon, I think they put crack in the Fresca salsa. Now Jason is saying it's the place will be determined, so we don't know yet. I like both ideas. Now I've not been to Torchy's, so I don't know how user friendly it is. But here we go. See, I can't do late night because we work so darn early. Here we go.
Back to the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Find Chris and Salty on Twitter at Chris Duel and at Shannon B. Sweeney.
Little Purple Haze, little Jimi Hendrix. Can't get enough of that. Dave Oehler, your Soundscape Stylist.
If you're just tuning in,
Shannon a little under the weather today. She will, in all probability, be back tomorrow. I know she was even, we texted last night. She was working on being here for this morning's show, but she's resting. I'm sure she'll be better. We hope she feels better. She should be joining us as usual tomorrow. So that will be wonderful. So Shannon, feel better if you hear this, or if you get the through osmosis or through mental telepathy as you're resting. Feel better. Dave Oehler, we do have some audio last night. It blows my mind. And actually, it was the poll question today, which I haven't really publicized much today at all. But over the weekend, two coaches that so many of us, including me, have counted out this year. Nick Saban led Alabama to a crushing defeat over favored Georgia in the SEC championship game. 41-24 was the final score there. And then last night, Bill Belichick at Buffalo gets really innovative, devises a way offensively and defensively to beat the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo on a frigid, freezing, windy, snow flurry night. Only throws the ball 3 times all night, only throws the ball once through the first 3 quarters, runs the ball 48 times, and the New England Patriots beat the Buffalo Bills last night 14-10 to further entrench themselves atop the AFC with the best record in the AFC. So our poll question today is, which coaching job was more impressive? Bill Belichick leading the Patriots over the Bills, or Nick Saban leading Alabama over Georgia? Current voting, Saban leading Bama over Georgia at 58%. Bill Belichick leading the Patriots over the Bills at 42%. You can vote at Ticket 760 for that. And Dave Oehler, I think we have some highlights of last night's New England Patriots 14-10 victory over the Buffalo Bills. Here's a little taste of last night, Monday Night Football.
On 3rd and 5, pitch for Harris, has the first down and breaks it, it's gone. Damian Harris threw everyone up the middle for the touchdown. 64 yards on the score. Hawk gets it away. They had Olszewski up and Neal back, and it bounces. I think touched, and he touched that. That's Buffalo football. Play action, throw, caught, touchdown. It's Gabriel Davis, and the Bills are on the board with a short field. Allen throwing, and it's knocked away. Miles Bryant able to knock the pass away, incomplete, and the Patriots come here and win the game.
Patriots win it 14-10. Their record 9-4, the best record in the AFC. They have the inside track and now control their own destiny for home field advantage throughout the AFC playoffs. And as I tweeted last night, is it too soon for us to start thinking about the possibility of a Brady versus Belichick Super Bowl? Dave Oehler, I asked you that in the 6 o'clock hour. You think it maybe is just a little too soon, but I got if this keeps happening, and over in the NFC, the Buccaneers are a game behind the Arizona Cardinals for the best record in the NFC. But with each passing week now, as we get closer to the playoffs in the NFL, I think more and more people are going to be bringing this possibility up.
I think the Buccaneers have have an easier pathway to the Super Bowl than the Patriots do.
Yes.
Because they got to go. They still have to go through Kansas City. I still think I'm still saying the Chiefs are going to go to the Super Bowl. But
I mean, you look at the Chiefs this year, and there's something. Even though Kansas City won on Sunday night, Mahomes did not throw a touchdown pass. Mahomes, like Josh Allen last night, Patrick Mahomes looks just a little bit off.
Yeah, and about last night's game is that, he only threw 3 passes. But it was against the Bills. The Bills are a good team.
True.
And only throwing 3 passes, if it was Jacksonville, okay, whatever. It's Jacksonville. But the Bills are a good team, and their defense couldn't adjust to the run game.
That's what amazes me. You knew after 1 quarter, the plan Belichick had was run. So, I don't understand why you didn't put like 9 guys in the box and dare Mac Jones to throw the football. And stop the run.
Yeah, if they couldn't adjust their offense or their defense couldn't adjust to that, wow, that's not good for Super Bowl hopes for the Bills.
No. No, and a lot of people had the Bills. Shannon had the Bills winning the Super Bowl. I forget who her NFC representative was. My Super Bowl pick was Green Bay versus Kansas City. I'll have to look it up. I think I had Green Bay winning that one. Though.
That would be a good game too.
And you still have a shot at that.
Yeah, that's still doable.
Yeah, but Bill Belichick, man, he just found a way to win that game last night. And as much as he's kind of a curmudgeon and he's not a good interview, and people are tired of him, and I'm tired of him, just like I'm tired of Nick Saban. But man, I got to give props, tip my hat, and give respect to Bill Belichick and Nick Saban. They're the best in college, best in the NFL, and they are showing no signs of going away anytime soon.
And if the Patriots and the Buccaneers both go to the Super Bowl, just think how easy every sports talk person's job would be.
Yeah,
just talking about that for 2 weeks. Our jobs would be so easy.
But it would be just absolute bragging rights between Belichick and Brady. It's like, you guys can have your little debates all you want. We're going to settle this on the football field. New England versus Tampa Bay. Great. And they played earlier this year, by the way, and Tampa Bay won that one. But, in a Super Bowl, everything's different. And again, Bill Belichick, you give him time to game plan and figure out a way to beat you. And
you think the NFL wants that? Oh, God, the ratings for that Super Bowl would be through the roof.
They would love that. Absolutely. My God. For the past several years, obviously, the AFC team has been New England. They bring great ratings. This would bring great ratings. Buccaneers. For me, and I was never a Buccaneers fan, and I wasn't even a Brady fan until he turned 40. And then when he made the leap from the Patriots to the Bucs. Now, if there's a Bucs game on TV, I watch. It's like, to me, Brady is must-see TV, and guy continues to deliver the goods. All right, so in football, college football, Nick Saban. In the NFL, Bill Belichick. And I would make the argument, Dave, a lot of Spurs fans, I don't think they realize the job Greg Popovich is doing with this young Spurs team. I think Spurs fans look at the record and they go, it's a losing record. They have been in darn near every game. And even last night, Phoenix tied for the best record in the NBA. They had won something like 10 in a row at home, and the Spurs are right there all night long. Late in the ball game, it was tied 88-88. Phoenix winds up winning a tight one at the end. But even last year, and even when even when Kawhi was on this team, there'd be like some 30-point blowouts now and then. Spurs last night lose by 4, 108-104. And I know there are no moral victories, and I know you're not supposed to go, ooh, we played well even though we lost. But this Spurs team, they fight for 4 quarters. They're the youngest team Greg Popovich has ever coached. They've won 4 out of their last 5. They had a 4-game winning streak until losing last night. I really think your casual basketball observer will look at the Spurs and go, their record is 8-14. They're not that good. But to me, Dave, I look at the way this team plays, and recently they've just been discovering how to close games and win. I think Pop, I think it's one of his better coaching jobs ever with the youngest team he's ever coached.
Yeah, I'm with you. On Saturday when I was down at the Sammy Hagar concert, I didn't see any of the Clippers game. And I got the alert on my phone saying that they won. I showed Tim Merriman, who was standing right next to me, and we dropped some F-bombs and wow, that may be the best win so far this season.
Yeah, and that night, Golden State on Saturday night, Golden State had the best record, and they do again now. They and the Suns are now 20-4.
They had like a 16-game winning streak.
It was something crazy. Yeah,
it was something really long.
Yeah. So, yeah, and when you beat the best team in the NBA, the Golden State Warriors, in their house on Saturday night, as the Spurs did, that was very and they darn near, and they were leading much of the game last night at Phoenix. They darn near did it twice in a row to the 2 best teams in the NBA. the Warriors and the Suns, and they came up just a little bit short against the Phoenix Suns last night. Chris Paul went nuts in the fourth quarter. Chris Paul had 21 points, 10 assists for the game, but he had something like 10 or 12 points in the fourth quarter. In crunch time, Chris Paul really delivered the goods for the Suns. So while the Spurs were playing last night in Phoenix, the New York Knicks were in San Antonio. Bill Schoening reported from the AT&T Center that the Knicks were there. So the Knicks got to rest last night in San Antonio. They got to practice at the AT&T Center last night. So they will be more rested than the Spurs tonight. But I really think the Spurs have an opportunity to win tonight against the Knicks. Let me pull that game up. The Knicks on the road are 6-4. So they're the Knicks are 11-12 overall. They're 6-4 on the road. So they play better on the road than they do at home. So it won't be easy for the Spurs, but I got a good feeling tonight, Dave. I think the Spurs find a way to win tonight, which would be very, very cool.
I predicted that they would win 35 games this year, and I thought I was kind of going over.
Yeah.
The last couple of games, though, I go, okay, 35 is doable.
Yeah.
35 wins over the season.
And I thought, 82-game schedule, I said, all right, 41. I thought they'd go 500. I'm not giving up on that yet. Now,
That's a little optimistic, I think.
know. I'm a bit of a freak.
You're a homer.
The over-under was 28.5, though. And
I
thought
that was way low.
Yeah.
I thought that was too low.
And I don't usually bet real money, but I meant to. I wanted to go put money on the over on that 28.5. So, you mentioned today, Dave, and we talked about it, and we talked about your journey to Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. Again, today is Pearl Harbor Day, so our thoughts with so many of the service members who lost their lives 80 years ago today in that surprise attack. That is what December 7th is remembered for many people. Tomorrow, Dave Oehler, is December 8th. And for me, as a Beatles fan and a John Lennon fan, tomorrow is the anniversary of the murder of John Lennon. So are you here tomorrow? I don't even know.
I'm here.
So, all right. You have permission to play as much John Lennon music tomorrow as you choose.
I'm sure I can work that into the schedule.
So there's that. So, all right. So we got Spurs tonight. Go Spurs, go. Beat the Knicks. We inch closer to the college football playoff. We are just 2 days removed from another NFL week beginning with Thursday Night Football. So tomorrow, Shannon Salty Sweeney should be back. We hope Shannon is feeling better. We thank you for hanging out. Dave Oehler, as always, a spectacular job. I didn't even get to – you gave me all this show prep I didn't even get to yet, man.
Oh.
And I ran out of show.
I'll have more tomorrow.
All right. I'll do my best to get to it tomorrow. There's a lot of good stuff here I didn't even get to. We just had too much stuff and not enough show today.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Yeah. Hey, and there's the end. There's my ending for the old radio show. Little Beatles on the way out. Thank you very much. Dave Oehler, great job. We'll see you tomorrow, man.
I'll be here.
All right, everybody. Have yourself a great Taco Tuesday. Stop and reflect a little bit on what happened 80 years ago today at Pearl Harbor. And thank you to all service members, all who serve or whoever have served, and their families. We thank you. We salute you. We will see you in 21 hours. Adios, amigos. Foam Foot, Amber, Ralph, James, Jesse, Dave, Emilio, Castanuela, Gordon, anybody else who may be in here. I am off to the PGA Superstore. Woo! See y'all tomorrow.